I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Delanon, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch. Double Clutch.
Double Clutch Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, welcome to the Double Clutch podcast with me, Huw Hopkins. And this week we're doing something that's a little bit outside my comfort zone. We are talking fashion. Now, like most of you, I've been watching The Last Dance, and I've noticed the importance of Michael Jordan and his sneakers on the basketball world, so I wanted to get the views of someone who knows what they're talking about in this area. It's the infamous Kayce. You'll have seen her on NBA Kicks, WNBA Kicks, Bleacher Report, and many other leading fashion and hoops culture websites. But she's also worked with the Seattle Storm and the WNBA and has previously played college ball herself. So she's a pretty good person to offer insight to myself, but I think a lot of you lot as well. So let's dive straight into my Last Dance chat with infamous Kayce. Sort of one of the reasons why I was keen to get you on. I mean, you've got your head in all these fashion worlds, and you're obviously growing as an influencer. And one of the main things that's going on at the moment is The Last Dance. Yeah. And you know your kicks better than I do. As you can tell, I'm not the most fashionable guy in the world. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about some of the sort of best sneakers in history, and also some of the 90s fashion that we're watching at the moment, because you're going to have a better view on that sort of thing. I wanted to start out with like the Jordan 1s. So we basically had an entire episode about the Jordan 1s. I've got a pair myself, and they're like the coolest sneakers I own by a long shot. Give me your thoughts about why the Jordan 1s are so important in the history of sneaker culture, but also why are they so relevant even now, 33 years later?
Yeah, I mean, the Jordan 1 is obviously such an iconic sneaker, being that it was like a banned sneaker, obviously. Just what it means to the basketball world. Like, it's like you think sneakers, you automatically think like Jordan 1s, and obviously watching like The Last Dance, you see like how relevant it was at that time and how iconic it was. And for me as like a basketball player, because I played in college, I cannot fathom trying to play basketball on a pair of 1s. And I mean, you heard Jordan talk about how his feet were bleeding by the end of that game. And I can only imagine, because walking around in a pair of 1s all day long makes like my pinky toes hurt. But I feel like it's just such an iconic shoe, obviously it being like the first sneaker that Jordan kind of like put on the map. And then it just the silhouette of the sneaker, all the different colorways, I feel like is why it's so relevant today. And just because I feel like what it means to the sneaker culture, what it means to the basketball world, is why it's so, again, relevant now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess
and just like what about it, and the style of it, and a lot of Jordan sneakers are made for like performance. You know what I mean? It's like not a sneaker that people would normally, or I'm sure people would not have thought 30 years from when it came out that it would be rocked as like a fashion statement. You know what I mean? Like, his sneakers were made to play basketball in, and I think the Jordan 1 silhouette is definitely different than a lot of his other sneakers, which is why it's so versatile, especially to be worn as like a fashion item now.
Yeah, and I guess you've got all the panel colors, haven't you? The individual sections that have different colors and that sort of thing. So that is more of a mood board. You can recreate it for any old you've got the North Carolina ones, you've got the USA ones. So yeah, it's really cool to be able to know that they're still relevant today. But what about the rest of the Jordan lines? Have you got any particular favorites outside of the Jordan 1s?
Absolutely. Honestly, the Jordan 1s were always like a fave for me, but it wasn't like if you'd ask me in like high school or something when I like really was like collecting, I probably wouldn't have said the 1s. My favorite silhouette is either probably the 3s, the 7s, or the 11s. I know a lot of people love the 11s because those are just as iconic, as the 1s, if not. I feel like if you would ask maybe a couple years ago, people would have probably said the 11 was like the most iconic sneaker. Now, like right now speaking today, probably people are going to say like the ones are the most popular. But I feel like as like a true sneakerhead, the 11s are like one of my favorite silhouettes, and definitely in my top 3, have always been in my top 3 of like all-time sneakers.
So like a lot of them, especially the more modern ones, and sort of, 11 onwards, I guess, because 11s are still, good to play, and a lot of them are still good to play, and apart from the ones, as they said in the doc. But there's been, I ended up buying, when I was a lot younger, the 23s, the first year they came out, because I was like, 23, it's going to be something special. And I remember seeing them, and I was like, all right, they honestly weren't that much in terms of like what they looked like and felt like. But I think like they've just always had that name. That name has been built up into something else now. But what other types of names pop out when you think sneakers? What's your favorite line at the moment? Who's your favorite player to pick up their latest kicks?
I mean, I'm obviously still collecting Jordans. I mean, that's like inevitable. Basketball wise, like performance wise, I definitely like the Kyries. I think those are a really dope sneaker.
Why is that? I'm intrigued by that, because they are the most popular ones ever. But like I said, I'm not a fashion guy. So
yeah,
and Kyrie isn't my favorite player, so I probably wouldn't pick up his sneakers anyway.
Yeah.
But like, why are his kicks so popular at the moment?
I think it's really like the colorways, the collabs, like the lines that he's dropped. Like obviously, like he dropped that SpongeBob collection. He's done like a collab with Sue Bird. Like he has a bunch of different colorways, which I think are very relevant to like the younger generation. That's what they want to see, is like the colors, the collabs, the, like what makes the sneaker unique. It's like nobody really wants to wear like a plain black sneaker anymore. It's like everybody, even NBA players are wearing like custom sneakers, sneakers that don't match their jerseys. And so it's like, obviously, the younger generation is looking at what their idols are doing, what NBA players are doing, and NBA players are wearing, the most unique sneaker they can nowadays. You know what I mean? And the most unique colorway. And I think Kyrie really has that. I think KD does too, but I think Kyrie's dabbed a little more into like, more exclusive drops and things like that. And I think that's why he's done so well. And also I have personally like played in Kyrie's, and they are actually very, very comfortable. So when I'm talking like, I mean, I personally wouldn't wear like a pair of Kyrie's like as like, part of like a fashion statement necessarily, like I would like a pair of Jordans. I'm talking more like performance on the court type of thing. It's really hard for me to even say that there's any sneaker outside of like Nike sportswear, you know what I mean, Jordan, that's like a sneaker that can be worn on the court and off the court. I feel like that really hasn't been dabbled. Like I wouldn't wear a pair of PGs off the court, but I would absolutely wear them on the court. KDs, there are some silhouettes I think that were done like back in the day that I did actually rock like, off the court, but I really don't feel like there's like a player or a performance sneaker that has the versatility that Jordans do.
I'm with you. You touched on Sue Bird a little bit there. And you've had the pleasure, you're native to Seattle, is that right? So, you grew up in Seattle, so you've had the opportunity to see Sue Bird pretty much your whole career, and you got the opportunity to do some work with the Seattle Storm. So, in terms of WNBA players, who do you think deserves a signature shoe line these days? Because we don't see enough of them, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely not. I think Sue Bird for sure. I think she's so important to the sneaker culture. Her sneaker game is crazy. I've actually known Sue since I was a freshman in high school. I worked as a ball girl for the Seattle Storm. That's how I kind of got my foot in the door with the WNBA. I absolutely think she deserves a sneaker. Just what she's done for the game. I mean, she's obviously been a pioneer for women's basketball. She's so well respected off the court, with what she does fashion wise. Like I said, her sneaker collection is crazy. I feel like it would only make sense that she had her own sneaker. I mean, Diana Taurasi has had her own sneaker with Nike. But when you think Diana Taurasi, you think like basketball player. Like when I think, I mean, obviously Diana Taurasi is my idol. But when I think of like somebody who like embodies an athlete on, off the court, is kind of like everything all in one, I definitely think Sue Bird. So it's like if I had to pick one player, and I'm not just being biased because I know her, but it's just like as an outsider, even looking in at the game, she's definitely somebody that I would, give their own sneaker to.
She's someone that you can put in front of a camera and touch on any situation, and she will be able to give you good, solid answers. Yeah, she's a bit of a hero of mine as well.
Yeah.
But so in terms of the Seattle Storm, then you've met quite a lot of those players.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, who is the best dressed member of the Seattle Storm?
Sue Bird for sure.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought. I also think Jordan Canada. She's obviously like a younger player. She definitely is killing it too. But I mean, like all around, like I've watched Sue. Sue's always had a very like comfortable, chill, like relaxed style, and I think it's just elevated over the years and evolved. And I really just feel like she just has like such a, I don't know, it's like the swag comes so easy to her, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like it's just so natural. Like she doesn't try to do anything extra. She doesn't try to, do anything that's not within her, her comfort zone essentially. But I mean, between her and I think, Jordan Canada, those are probably my top two on the team right now.
I think Sue Bird, she seems to pull off the whole laid back look so well, and it does look so effortless to her. Yeah. But like listening to a couple of conversations recently, where her and Megan Rapinoe have been on podcasts together and that sort of thing. Yeah. I definitely get the impression that Megan is the sort of uber laid back kind of person, and it feels like Sue Bird is the sort of more uptight person. So it's so amazing that she's able to pull off that relaxed style so easily. It feels like it comes naturally. Yeah,
and I think knowing Sue personally, I feel like it makes sense. Like her style, you know what I mean? Like her style really just speaks to who she is, and I think a lot of people like don't get to see. I mean, they see obviously Sue on camera, they see Sue in interviews and stuff like that, but like she's so chill, she's so cool. Like she's like the type of person that could literally rap word for word any Biggie song, any like throwback song. Like she's just so cool, like and it's just so effortless, and that's why I think it really, like, for me, it really transcribes into her fashion. So it's like she's just so cool.
So you've had a couple of opportunities not just to meet Sue, but you've done a bunch of stuff at like NBA All-Star games, that sort of stuff. Have you ever felt sort of starstruck like that with anyone?
Not necessarily. And I feel like it just has stemmed from like me playing basketball, me being around basketball and professional players since I was like in 9th grade. So it's like, as a ball kid, you're taught like you can't be a fan. You're there to work. You have to respect the players, personal space, and you are in the locker room. You're in their personal space around, obviously game time and practice and things like that. So at a young age, I was taught like, you can't be a fan. And like I said, also being a player, it's like you want, your personal time, or especially like before games, during games, after games, to be respected. You know what I mean? And so in order to gain that respect from players, you have to respect their personal space. And so because I learned that at such a young age, it's really hard for me now to be starstruck by people, because it's like they just want to be like treated as like a normal human being. You know what I mean? Like all day, every day, they're like around paparazzi and, being hounded by media. And it's like, that's the last thing that I want to bring to that. Especially, it's because I want to get like the real side of them instead of getting like the media side of them too. So, there's nobody that I've really been starstruck by, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did see Allen Iverson All-Star Weekend, and that's been my idol since I was little. That's the reason why I wore 3. It's probably like the reason why I started playing basketball, and so I was kind of starstruck by that. But that's probably it.
On one of your pinned tweets is with Kobe Bryant.
So yeah, I will say I was a little starstruck in that situation, but I was like thrown into that situation. I had like 2 minutes to prepare. I had no idea that I was going to be interviewing him, so I honestly had no time to even think about it. So I think it was probably better that way, instead of like knowing and then going into it. I probably been way more nervous.
So what about I mean, Kobe has got an incredible legacy of supporting women's basketball and that sort of stuff. But he was also an incredible basketball player, an incredible human being. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about his sneakers as well, because his sneakers, I always think I want to buy a pair. But again, it comes back to that Kyrie thing. Like I was always a little bit of a Kobe hater when he was playing.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, so was I.
Yeah,
absolutely, so was I.
So, where do you rank his kicks in terms of what they did for basketball, but also for fashion?
I mean, even when he was with like Adidas, like it was always like he always had like a really popular sneaker, you know, like with the Crazy 8s and things like that. I definitely think going to Nike was the smart move. I mean, not a lot of players can say they've gone from like one brand, especially like as big as like Adidas went to Nike, and being successful at both. I think his sneaker is iconic, obviously, just being who he was. And again, he was someone who dropped a bunch of different silhouettes, a bunch of different colorways. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many sneakers that he had that even, you know, when he was alive, that were super rare to get. Like, obviously, like now it's even harder to get sneakers like of his, and, you know, the value and price has gone up and things like that. But even like I said, like when he was alive, I mean, he had a bunch of sneakers drop that were very rare, very hard to get, that, you know, made his sneaker, I feel like, that much more valuable. And obviously being who he was definitely changed that too and elevated things. But I mean, fashion wise, again, it's not so much of a sneaker that I would necessarily, you know, wear off the court, but it's definitely one of those ones that you can make it work. You know what I mean? Just because of, I mean, I would say like the low top silhouettes, maybe like the 8s or something like that. But I mean, again, the colorways that he dropped were just, I feel like, so iconic.
Okay, so talking about stuff that you could wear off the court, you've sort of set up your own collab line with NFL player, former Seattle Seahawk, Marshawn Lynch. How did that come about? So,
obviously, I'm from Seattle, born and raised. He obviously played here. He has a store here. He has like a flagship store here in Seattle. I have a friend that I went to, well, we didn't go to the same high school, but we have like mutual friends that I grew up with that used to work at the store. And I've crossed paths with Marshawn a couple of times. And it was actually really weird. I had seen him in the club. He's very low key. He's not like most athletes that are like very flashy. Like he'll go to the club in like a hoodie and just walk around in general public. It's like I can't even name any other player of his like caliber that does that. Yeah. But I was in the club one day here in Seattle, and he came up to me and he was like, hey, like obviously we had, you know, hung out a couple times on group settings and things like that. So we knew of each other, and he was just like, hey, like, you know, I respect what you're doing. Like, you know, have you ever thought of like doing fashion? Like I like, you know, how you dress, blah, blah, blah. And obviously this is in the club, so it's like we couldn't have like a very like
it wasn't a business meeting.
Right, but it was like, hey, like I like what you're doing. Like I know you're from Seattle. Like I have Beastmode, obviously, like, you know, his line. And he was like, you know, I'd love to do like a collab. Obviously not verbatim, but that was kind of like the gist of the conversation. And he was like, do you know anybody that is like a designer? And he's like, I know you're into fashion, but do you know anybody that does like the tactical, you know, like the tech packs and things like that? And I was like, oh yeah, like my sister, she went to school for product development. So cool. She does tech packs, everything like that. So I was like, my sister, I'd love to bring her on. She was actually with me at the club, so I introduced them. And then he was like, hey, here's my email, like email me. And then from there, it kind of just happened. He gave us full creative control. Obviously we, you know, sent him over our drafts and our mock-ups and things like that. And, you know, he was just like, I respect what you guys are doing, so I trust you guys. And so that was probably the dopest part about it, was like that he trusted us, you know, putting his name on our stuff. Obviously, like I said, everything was ran through him, but I mean, he liked everything that we did, and that's kind of where we came up with like the collab.
Cool. So where can people find some of that stuff if they wanted to get hold of it?
Yeah. So, Beastmode is actually moving their line over to Fanatics, and
cool.
So we had to do things a little bit differently. That's the only reason why people have asked, like, why isn't our stuff like directly on beastmode.com? But because it's part of Fanatics, there was like a bunch of like legal stuff that we had to deal with, and we wanted to avoid that. So Beastmode created us our own like landing page, which was Beastmode TK, which is Tori and Kayce. So beastmodetk.com. That's where they can purchase it at.
Cool. Okay.
And
Well,
it
yeah.
kind of sucked though because we dropped it right when quarantine happened, and so we had like a launch party ready. He has a store in Oakland. He's opening a new store in Vegas, and we had plans to go do like launch parties at each of the stores, which would have been really cool. Unfortunately, like I said, it was literally the weekend that the governor was, or the mayor was like, hey, we're, no, like we're no parties, no gatherings over 50 people. And so we had to cancel everything.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, it looks like super comfortable stuff. So, it's perfect for now if you're, stuck inside, but want to look good. Like that's
exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So before I let you go, what else is coming up?
I recently just dropped a couple collabs with my friend Erin. She's based out of LA. We did a bunch of like masks just for obviously like the time being that we designed, which actually have been doing really well. I definitely want to start to gain a presence more so like on YouTube, hopefully curate my own type of show or something where I'm doing more hosting. I feel like that's kind of where I want to head. Like that's the direction I want to head into, is trying to start like maybe my like own series that involves like athletes, fashion, sneakers, but something that isn't being done right now. So those are kind of in the works. It's kind of like trying to figure out how can I differentiate myself from the things that are already going on, or videos, or podcasts, videocasts, all those things that are already going on. How can mine be like a little bit different? So that's kind of in the works, and obviously I'm going to keep manifesting and speaking into existence, but I want to have my own sneaker collab eventually, like an Aleli May or something like that. So I'm just going to keep speaking that into existence. So those are the things that are being worked on.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
That's all for this time, folks. Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow Kayce on all platforms at InfamousKayce, and do the same with myself at Coach_Huw, as well as Double Clutch on all the necessary platforms at Double Clutch UK. Also, stay tuned to the website doubleclutch.uk for the best written and audio content from the finest basketball minds in the NBA in the UK community. Peace.